All right, so we're going deep on this Toltec wisdom thing today.
Okay.
Specifically, these excerpts you sent over on the mastery of love. You've been on this like personal growth kick.
Yeah.
And wanting to like understand relationships better.
Right.
Right? With yourselves, with others.
Uh-huh.
So this is really going to get into that.
Okay.
Because it talks about humans being like dream masters.
Oh, wow.
Like we're shaping our own reality.
Interesting.
So we're going to unpack that, and then also how to break free from those like, limiting beliefs and routines we all have.
Right.
And even the role of like forgiveness and self-love.
Okay.
All that good stuff.
Yeah. Sounds cool.
So much to dive into.
Yeah. It is pretty fascinating, this whole concept of the dream.
Yeah.
Like the Toltecs call it.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests that like our reality is basically just like a construct that we build from our beliefs.
So like if I believe something is true,
yeah,
it becomes true.
Well, it's more about how we interpret things too. It's all those beliefs and interpretations kind of coming together to shape our experience.
But the catch is,
yeah,
what if we're building this dream on like fear or self-rejection?
Exactly, like those limiting beliefs.
Yeah. That's when we get stuck.
Mm-hmm. We get stuck in these cycles of suffering.
So it's like if I'm always thinking I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Or I'll never be able to achieve that.
Right.
I'm basically like building a reality.
You manifesting it.
Yeah, manifesting it where those things are true.
Yeah.
Even if they don't have to be.
Even if they don't have to be, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's trippy.
It is. And we see this happen all the time.
Yeah.
Like just imagine someone who like, they want to be rich. They dream of being like financially abundant.
Okay.
But they just like spend hours every day watching TV.
Yeah.
Instead of, like learning a new skill or like looking for opportunities.
Right, right.
So their actions aren't matching up with what they want.
Totally. And that's where the problem is.
Yeah, that misalignment, that's where like all the frustration comes in.
Yeah.
The lack of fulfillment.
Okay, so that makes total sense.
Yeah.
But then how do we break free?
Whoa.
If we're so caught up in this dream.
Right.
How do we actually become the dream masters?
Oh, that's the big question.
And take control.
The Toltecs introduced these figures called the dreamer and the stalker.
What, dreamer and the stalker?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds kind of scary.
Well, it's not as scary as it sounds. The dreamer is the part of us that like wakes up to the fact that this reality, it's a dream, it's an illusion.
Okay.
But it's the stalker that gets things done.
The stalker.
Yeah, so to speak. It's the part of us that observes our reactions.
Okay.
Like our like knee-jerk responses to things, and then starts to like change those routines.
Oh, so it's more like aware.
Yeah, it's about awareness and change.
Okay.
It's subtle but powerful.
Okay. So is it kind of like that moment when you realize you're dreaming and you can suddenly like do anything, like fly or walk through walls?
It's similar in the sense of awareness, yeah.
Okay.
But in this case, we're applying it to our waking lives, not just the dream world. So imagine like a tiger, stalking its prey.
Okay, yeah.
It's patient, it's focused, waits for the perfect opportunity.
Right.
That's what we're doing with our negative reactions. Right. We're not trying to suppress them, but we're like observing them, understanding them, and then choosing a different response.
So like what would that look like in real life?
Okay.
Like, let's say someone cuts me off in traffic.
Okay, yeah.
And I usually react by getting, like, angry and yelling.
Right.
How would the stalker handle that differently?
Well, instead of immediately going into that anger response, the stalker in Shuch, you might notice, like, the physical sensations of the anger.
Oh, yeah.
Like the racing heart, the clenched jaw. It might even question, like, the thought.
Okay.
Like, this person is deliberately trying to hurt me.
Oh, interesting.
And then in that pause, in that space of awareness, you have a choice.
Oh.
You can choose to react with anger.
Right.
Or you can choose a more constructive response.
Okay, so it's not about eliminating the feelings.
No, not at all.
But just being more aware of them.
Yes.
And then choosing how we respond.
Exactly. And this awareness, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Not just for our well-being, but also for our relationships.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Because let's face it, we often react to others based on our own, like, triggers.
Oh, yeah.
Our own past hurts.
Oh, totally.
But when we become the stalker, we start to see things more clearly.
Okay.
We see that maybe that person who cut you off is having a really bad day.
Right.
Maybe they're dealing with something we have no idea about.
Yeah, yeah.
It helps us be more understanding.
Okay, so we're getting more in control of our internal world.
Yeah.
But what about external influences?
Okay.
How does the Toltec wisdom view things like, I don't know, like societal pressures.
Right.
Especially when it comes to like love and relationships.
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting. The excerpts you shared.
Yeah.
They also touch upon the role of sex.
Oh.
And how societal judgments can like really distort our understanding of it.
Yeah. There's this whole idea that like sex is either like completely taboo.
Right.
Or it's like the be all and end all of a relationship.
Yeah.
Where's the nuance?
The Toltecs actually see sex as like a natural, instinctual part of being human.
Okay.
Like it's supposed to be enjoyable.
Right.
The problem is when the mind, with all its like rules and judgments, starts to control and like distort that natural instinct, we start believing things like sex is bad.
Right.
Or we develop these like rigid expectations about how it should be.
Oh, yeah.
That's when like all the guilt and shame creeps in.
So if the body has these natural needs, but the mind is the one like getting all tangled up.
Yeah.
How do we navigate that?
One key distinction they make is between the needs of the body
Okay.
and the needs of the mind.
Okay.
The body's needs are pretty straightforward.
Right.
Food, water, shelter, sex.
Yeah.
But the mind, it's a whole other story.
Yeah.
The mind can want.
It's never satisfying.
Even when the body's perfectly content.
Oh, yeah.
Think of it like this.
Okay.
You just had a delicious meal.
Okay.
Your body's full and satisfied, right?
Yeah.
But your mind might still be thinking.
Ooh, dessert.
Ooh, dessert would be nice.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Yeah, we all do.
I can practically hear the ice cream calling my name.
Exactly.
Even when I'm like stuffed.
Yeah, but this isn't really about food.
Right.
It's about understanding that the mind by its nature can have insatiable desires.
Okay.
And when we apply this to love and relationships, things get really interesting. Could it be that we're often like mistaking physical intimacy for genuine connection?
Oh, that's a good point.
Could we be seeking love in like all the wrong places? Because our minds haven't learned to like differentiate between what the body needs and what the heart truly desires.
Okay, that's making me rethink a lot of things.
Yeah.
Especially about how we approach relationships.
Right.
Like there's this whole other layer of understanding that we're often missing.
It's a deep dive.
Yeah, it is.
Into ourselves.
Totally. You know, the excerpts also mentioned this Greek myth about Artemis, the divine huntress.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to say, like, it really resonated with me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's that all about?
Ah, yes. The story of Artemis.
Yeah.
It's a powerful analogy for how we search for love.
Okay.
She's this incredibly skilled huntress living in harmony with nature. Great. Everything she needs is coming to her effortlessly.
Okay.
But then she's given this task to hunt this magical deer.
Okay.
And it's this pursuit
that
ultimately leads to her downfall.
What I found fascinating is that she's driven by this desire for something outside of herself. She becomes obsessed with this external goal.
Yeah.
And in doing so, she loses sight of all the love and abundance that already existed within her.
And that's the core message here, isn't it?
Yeah.
True fulfillment, lasting happiness, genuine love.
Yeah.
These things aren't found by like chasing after external validation or trying to capture love from someone else. It's about cultivating that love within ourselves first.
Okay. Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we are already whole and complete.
That's deep.
Just as we are.
Yeah.
That's the starting point.
Okay, this reminds me of another concept.
Yeah.
From the excerpts. The parasite.
Yes, the parasite.
What is that?
It's that inner critic.
Oh, yeah.
That voice of self-doubt and fear that's constantly like hunting us emotionally.
So we have this like inner critic.
Yeah.
That's like feeding on our insecurities.
Feeding on our insecurities, exactly.
And the more we listen to it, the more power we give it.
The stronger it gets.
So it's like we're being stalked by our own negative thoughts.
By our own negative thoughts, exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mind bender.
So how do we fight back?
That's where the real work begins. We have to develop the skills to like recognize those negative thoughts, to challenge them, and ultimately to choose love over fear.
To choose love over fear.
Woo! Imagine yourself as a warrior facing down that inner critic.
Oh, wow.
And reclaiming your own inner love.
That's powerful imagery.
It is. It's about taking back your power.
Yeah, but it also makes me realize how much strength and courage it takes.
Yes, it does.
To break free from those negative patterns.
It's not always easy.
So where do we even start with healing those emotional wounds? You know, those places where the parasite has really dug in deep.
The Toltecs offer a framework for healing.
Okay.
It involves truth,
Okay.
forgiveness, and self-love.
So those three things together.
Those three elements work together to mend those wounds and create a foundation for lasting happiness.
Okay, so let's break that down.
Okay.
How does truth play a role in healing?
Okay, so truth, it's like that bright light, that shines into the dark corners of our minds.
Yeah.
Like those places where we might be hiding from ourselves.
Hiding from ourselves.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's about being radically honest with ourselves, acknowledging the hurts we've experienced, and even the ways we might have contributed to our own suffering.
Oh, wow.
It's not always comfortable, but it's the first step toward real change.
So it's about getting real with ourselves.
Yes.
Facing those uncomfortable truths.
Yep.
But how do we move from that to actual healing? Where does forgiveness fit in?
Forgiveness is where the real magic happens, you could say.
All right.
It's the ultimate act of self-love.
Self-love.
It's about releasing the burden of those past hurts and choosing to move forward.
Okay.
And it's important to note, forgiveness doesn't mean condoning what happened or pretending it didn't hurt.
Right.
It's about recognizing that holding on to that anger and resentment, it only harms us in a long run.
Okay, so I think a lot of people struggle with forgiveness because it can feel like we're letting the other person off the hook.
Right.
Like they hurt us.
Yeah.
So they should suffer too.
That's a common misconception. Forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about freeing ourselves from the chains of that past pain.
Wow.
It's about choosing peace over the bitter satisfaction of holding a grudge.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
The excerpts you shared had that powerful example of the woman who's going through a divorce. Right?
Yeah, she's filled with all this anger towards her ex-husband.
Yeah, she tries to release her anger by having this like tantrum.
Yeah.
But it only provides like temporary relief. Right. It's not until she chooses to forgive him that she experiences like real healing.
Exactly. And notice, like, she forgives him.
Yeah.
Not because he deserves it,
right,
but because she deserves peace.
Exactly.
Like she deserves to move on and create a life filled with joy.
Yes.
Not weighed down by bitterness.
It's the powerful shift.
Okay, so we're facing the truth.
Right.
We're choosing forgiveness, but then there's this big one, self-love.
Yes, self-love.
I think a lot of people, myself included, struggle with that.
It's a common struggle.
It can feel almost selfish.
Right.
Or narcissistic.
I understand the concept of self-love. It's gotten a bit of a bad rap. Yeah.
But true self-love has nothing to do with arrogance or vanity.
Okay.
It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness, compassion, and understanding that we would offer to a dear friend.
Right.
Or a beloved pet.
Okay, so it's about recognizing that we are worthy of love.
Yes.
Simply because we exist.
Simply because we exist.
Not because of what we achieve or how we look.
Exactly.
Just because we are.
That's it.
Okay.
And here's the thing. Yeah. When we cultivate self-love, it naturally overflows into our relationships with others.
Oh, interesting.
We become more patient, more understanding, more forgiving.
Okay.
We set healthy boundaries.
Right.
And we attract people who treat us with respect.
So it all starts with us.
It all starts with us.
Okay, so we're talking about truth, forgiveness, and self-love as these like powerful tools for transformation.
Powerful tools.
But the excerpts also mentioned this concept of the awakening. Ah, yes, the awakening.
It's intriguing.
It is.
But also a bit mystical.
A little bit.
Can you break that down for me?
Okay, so the awakening, it's a shift in consciousness.
Okay.
It's a profound realization that we are not just physical beings, but also spiritual beings having a human experience.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that spark of the divine within ourselves.
It almost sounds like a religious experience.
It can be a very spiritual experience.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily tied to any specific religion.
Right.
Imagine being at a party where everyone is completely drunk.
Okay.
Except for you.
I've been there.
You can see things clearly. You're not caught up in the drama and chaos.
Okay.
That's what the awakening feels like.
Got it.
A sense of clarity, peace, and deep connection to something much greater than ourselves.
Wow, that's a great analogy.
It paints a picture.
Yeah, it really does.
Of what it might feel like. To be awake. To be awake. Exactly.
But how do we get there?
That's the beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's both.
Both.
We can create the conditions for awakening by practicing those 3 keys we discussed.
Right.
Truth, forgiveness, and self-love.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's a process of surrender.
Surrender.
Of allowing that divine force within us to guide us.
Okay, so we're talking about surrender. About recognizing the divine within us.
Yes.
This is where it starts to feel a bit mind-bending for me.
Okay.
This idea of the God within.
Right.
It's a lot to wrap my head around.
I understand it's a concept that's challenged.
Yeah.
And transformed spiritual understanding for centuries.
Yeah.
The Toltecs aren't saying we're literally gods.
Right.
But rather that we are all expressions of that same divine energy, that life force that flows through all of creation.
So instead of seeing God as this separate entity out there,
right,
we're recognizing that spark of divinity within ourselves.
Exactly. It's about realizing that we are not just physical beings with a soul.
Yeah.
But spiritual beings having a human experience.
Spiritual beings.
Having a human experience. Yeah.
Okay.
The divine isn't something external to us. It's the very force that animates us. That allows us to think, feel, and experience life in all its richness.
That really changes the whole game, doesn't it?
It does.
It's like we're discovering this hidden treasure.
Yes.
That's been within us all along.
All along.
Okay, so
yeah,
if this potential is inherent in all of us, why do so many people seem to be stuck in these cycles of suffering?
That's a question that has puzzled spiritual seekers for ages.
Yeah.
The Toltec suggests that our suffering stems from a kind of forgetfulness.
Forgetfulness.
Yeah,
right.
We become so caught up in this dream, in our fears, desires, and limiting beliefs, that we lose sight of who we truly are.
It's like we've wandered away from our true home and gotten lost in this maze of our own making.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And the process of awakening, of healing and cultivating self-love, it's about finding our way back to that place of wholeness.
Wholeness.
It's about remembering that we are loved, worthy, and connected to something much greater than ourselves.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
The dream, the parasite, the awakening, this idea of the God within.
Right.
It's like a roadmap.
It is like a roadmap.
For personal transformation.
Exactly.
For moving from that state of suffering and limitation to a life filled with love, freedom, and joy.
That's a wonderful way to describe it.
Wow.
And remember those 3 keys we talked about?
Truth, forgiveness, and self-love.
Truth, forgiveness, and self-love.
Yeah.
Those are the tools that help us navigate this journey.
They're like the master keys.
Yes.
That unlock the door
exactly.
to lasting happiness.
Truth helps us see through the illusions we've created.
Yeah.
And identify those limiting beliefs that are holding us back. Forgiveness liberates us from the past. Allowing us to move forward with compassion and understanding and self-love.
Yeah.
Well, that's the foundation for it all.
Okay.
It's the recognition of our inherent worthiness, the fuel that allows us to live authentically and joyfully.
So we're essentially creating a life
that's
truly aligned
right.
with our soul's purpose.
That's the beautiful potential that unfolds when we embrace these teachings.
Okay.
And as we continue to explore the material you shared,
Yeah.
we can delve even deeper into these concepts and discover practical ways to apply them in your daily life.
I'm so ready for that.
I think you are.
This Toltec wisdom. It's like a breath of fresh air.
It is.
It's not about seeking happiness outside ourselves,
right,
but about cultivating it from within.
That's the core message here.
Okay.
And the really exciting part is that as we heal and awaken to our own divine nature, we naturally become a source of love and healing
for others,
the world around us.
So it's not just about personal transformation.
It's bigger than that.
But also about contributing to a more loving and compassionate world.
Absolutely. The Toltecs emphasize that we are all interconnected. Our individual healing and awakening, it ripples outward.
Interesting.
Impacting our relationships, our communities, and ultimately the entire planet.
Wow, that's a beautiful vision.
It is.
It gives me hope that we can actually create a world where love, compassion, and understanding prevail.
It's possible.
Okay.
And remember that transformation, it begins with each of us.
Okay.
It's about making the choice to heal, to cultivate self-love, and to live from a place of authenticity and purpose.
So instead of waiting for the world to change, we become the change we want to see.
That's the power we each hold within us.
Wow.
And the Toltec wisdom offers a clear path for doing just that. It requires courage, commitment, and a willingness to look within.
Right.
But the rewards are immeasurable.
Okay.
A life filled with love, joy, and a deep sense of fulfillment.
You know, one thing that really stood out to me in the excerpts was this idea of surrendering to the divine force, to the God within.
Yes.
What does that actually look like in practice?
Surrender isn't about giving up or becoming passive.
Right.
It's about aligning our will with the divine will.
Interesting.
It's about trusting the wisdom of our hearts, letting go of our need to control, and allowing life to unfold in its own perfect timing.
That sounds really liberating.
It is.
But it also seems like it would require a lot of trust.
Yes, trust is essential.
Especially when things get challenging.
Absolutely. And the Toltec wisdom offers some powerful insights into how to cultivate trust in ourselves, in the divine, and in the unfolding of life.
Okay. I'm definitely intrigued by that.
Good.
Can you share some of those insights?
Sure.
I'd love to learn more about how we can practically apply this concept of surrender in our own lives.
So the Toltec wisdom uses a powerful analogy.
Ooh, I love a good analogy.
To illustrate this process of surrender.
Let's hear it.
Imagine a river flowing towards the ocean. If we try to swim upstream, resisting the current, we'll just exhaust ourselves and make very little progress. But if we surrender to the flow, allowing the river to carry us, we effortlessly move towards our destination.
That's a really vivid image.
It is.
It captures the sense of ease and effortlessness that comes with surrender.
Exactly. Surrender isn't about becoming powerless. It's about aligning ourselves with a greater power, with the divine flow of life. It's about recognizing that we don't always have to struggle or force things to happen. We can simply trust that the universe is conspiring in our favor. And allow ourselves to be guided by a wisdom that's greater than our own limited understanding.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we know when to surrender and when to take action?
That's a great question.
How do we find that balance between trust and effort?
That's a question that we can continue to explore. The key, as the Toltec wisdom suggests, is to develop a discerning heart.
A discerning heart.
A heart that's attuned to the whispers of intuition and the subtle guidance of the divine.
So it's about cultivating a deeper sense of self-awareness.
Yes.
Of listening to our inner wisdom.
Exactly.
And trusting that we'll be guided in the right direction.
Trusting that we'll be guided in the right direction.
This whole conversation is making me realize that personal growth isn't just about acquiring knowledge. It's about developing a deep and trusting relationship with ourselves. And with the divine.
That's a beautiful insight.
Okay.
And the Toltec wisdom offers a path for doing just that. It's a path that invites us to step into our full potential. As human beings, as expressions of the divine. And to create a life that's filled with love, purpose, and joy.
I'm feeling incredibly inspired.
Good.
But I have to admit, this concept of the God within, it's a bit mind-bending.
I understand.
Is there a way to understand it in a more practical, down-to-earth way?
Absolutely. The Toltec wisdom uses a simple yet powerful example to illustrate the presence of the divine within us.
Okay. I'm all ears.
Think about your physical body.
Okay.
It's made up of billions of cells. Each one a living being. That depends on you for survival. You provide those cells with nourishment, oxygen, and a safe environment to thrive. In a sense, you are God. To those cells.
I never thought of it that way.
It's a powerful perspective shift. So we're already experiencing a microcosm of divinity within our own bodies.
Within our own bodies.
Exactly. And just as we care for the cells within our body, the divine force cares for us, providing us with the life force that sustains our very being.
That's a really powerful way to connect with the idea of the God within.
It is.
It's not some abstract concept, but a living reality that's happening within us every moment of our lives.
Every moment.
That's amazing.
It is. And when we recognize this truth, when we shift our perspective from seeing God as something external to us to experiencing that divine presence within ourselves, our entire relationship with life transforms.
Okay, I'm starting to get a glimpse of that transformation.
Yeah.
But how does this understanding of the God within actually impact our daily lives?
Okay.
How does it change the way we relate to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
And it's one that we'll continue to explore because we delve even deeper into the wisdom of the Toltec teachings.
All right, lead the way.
Let's do it.
Ready for the next level of this deep dive.
Here we go.
Okay, so we're like exploring how recognizing the God within, actually impacts our everyday lives.
Right.
It's a big idea.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see how it like translates into tangible actions and shifts in perspective.
Yeah. It's a beautiful ripple effect, really.
Okay.
When we start to see that divine spark within ourselves, we naturally start to recognize it.
Yeah.
In everyone and everything around us.
So it's not just about like finding God
right.
in a church or a temple, but about seeing that divine essence in every person we meet, every tree we pass by, every sunset we witness.
Yeah. The Toltec wisdom emphasizes this interconnectedness of all things.
Okay.
This understanding that we are all expressions of the same divine source.
Okay.
When we view the world through this lens, it cultivates a deep sense of reverence, compassion, and gratitude for all of life.
That's a beautiful way to experience the world.
It is.
But it also seems like a radical shift from the way many of us are conditioned to think.
Right.
We're often taught to see things in terms of separation, us versus them, good versus bad.
You're right. It does challenge many of our preconceived notions about spirituality and religion. The Toltec wisdom invites us to move beyond dogma and rigid belief systems. And to experience the divine directly through our own hearts.
So it's not about blindly following rules or rituals, but about cultivating a direct personal relationship with the divine.
That's the essence of it.
Okay.
And as you connect with that inner divinity, your life becomes infused with a sense of purpose, meaning, and joy that flows from a deeper source.
Okay, I'm really seeing how this concept of the God within isn't just some philosophical idea, but a potent force that can transform our lives and ripple out to the world around us.
It's a powerful force.
But there's a question that keeps coming up for me.
Okay.
If we're all expressions of the divine, why is there so much suffering in the world?
Right.
Why do people hurt each other? Why do bad things happen?
That's a question that has resonated throughout history.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
The Toltec wisdom suggests that suffering arises from a separation from our true nature, from that divine spark within us.
Right.
When we forget who we truly are, we become entangled in fear, ego, and the illusion of separation.
It's like we've fallen asleep to our true nature.
Exactly.
And are wandering around in a dream state of suffering and confusion.
Like we talked about earlier.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And the process of awakening, of healing those emotional wounds and cultivating self-love, it's about waking up from that dream.
Right.
And remembering who we truly are.
Yes.
Beings of love, light, and infinite potential.
That's beautifully said.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That makes me think of all the conflict and division in the world right now.
A lot.
Is it even possible to see those who cause harm, who perpetuate suffering, as expressions of the divine?
That's a challenging question.
Can we really love our enemies?
It calls for deep compassion and understanding.
Yeah.
The Toltec wisdom suggests that even those who seem lost in darkness are ultimately seeking love.
Okay.
Though their ways may be distorted or destructive,
when
we can see beyond the surface behavior to the wounded heart beneath, it becomes easier to offer compassion.
So it's about recognizing that everyone is on their own journey.
Yes.
And even those who cause harm
are
often acting out of their own pain and confusion.
That's a powerful insight.
Okay.
And true forgiveness, as we discussed earlier, doesn't mean condoning hurtful actions.
Right.
It's about releasing the anger and resentment that bind us to the past.
Yeah.
When we can forgive both ourselves and others, We create space for healing and transformation,
Oh.
both within ourselves and in the world around us.
This whole conversation has been so illuminating.
I'm glad.
I'm realizing that love isn't just a feeling.
Hmm.
It's a powerful force that has the potential to heal,
Yes.
transform, and connect us all.
It's a powerful force.
It's about seeing the world through a lens of compassion, understanding and recognizing our shared humanity.
You've articulated that beautifully.
Thanks.
The Toltec wisdom offers a path for cultivating that kind of love. A love that isn't based on conditions or expectations, but on a profound recognition of the inherent worth and dignity of every living being.
Wow. This deep dive has been a truly transformative experience.
I agree.
As we wrap up, is there one key takeaway you hope listeners will carry with them?
I hope listeners remember this. The power to heal, to transform, to love. It resides within each of us.
Within each of us.
We are not broken or separate from the divine, but rather expressions of it. And when we awaken to this truth, our lives and the world around us become infused with beauty, joy, and meaning that is beyond measure.
That's a beautiful message to end on.
Thank you.
It truly speaks to the heart of what the Toltec wisdom is all about.
It does.
Embracing our true nature, cultivating love, and living a life aligned with our soul's purpose.
That's it.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been an incredible journey.
Remember, the journey doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep opening your heart to the infinite possibilities that reside within you.
And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this episode of The Deep Dive.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this exploration of Toltec wisdom and the mastery of love.
It's a fascinating topic.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
Keep diving.
And keep discovering those treasures that lie within.
Absolutely.